Step into an ancient time when chivalry reigned and epic battles were fought. Amidst the pages of history, a tale is waiting to be told. It is a tale of unsung bravery and remarkable sacrifice. The story of the forgotten heroes of the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages, a period spanning from the 5th to the late 15th century, was a time of significant historical events. It witnessed the Crusades, the rise of the Knights Templar, and the 100 Years' War. Yet, amidst these well-documented narratives, lie countless individuals whose contributions have been overshadowed by more prominent figures like Joan of Arc and the Vikings. Join us on a thrilling expedition as we unearth the extraordinary lives of these unique individuals. Prepare to be transported back in time, where you'll rediscover the heroes who shaped our world, their valiant deeds no longer lost in obscurity. Let's get started. Here are the top forgotten heroes of the Middle Age. Number 1. Saint George the Dragon Slayer. Saint George is a legendary Middle Ages saint known for his bravery and martyrdom. Saint George was a man of little-known virtue whom Roman Empire Diocletian beheaded in the 3rd century AD for his refusal to give up his Christian belief in favor of pagan sacrifices. The most famous story about him involves saving a princess from a dragon. According to the legend, Saint George was a Roman soldier who refused to renounce his Christianity during Emperor Diocletian's persecution of Christians. As a result, he was put to death 3 times, but each time, he miraculously survived. Eventually, he was beheaded and became a martyr. Saint George is often depicted as a dragon slayer and is considered a symbol of good overcoming evil. He is also known for his endurance and survival of death. The legend of Saint George has inspired many works of art and literature, and he is still celebrated as a patron saint in various countries, including England and Georgia. Saint George had also become a revered figure in Eastern Byzantine and Palestine by the late 4th century. The Western Roman Empire became devoted to him in the 5th century. Over a dozen nations and numerous communities and dioceses within those nations made him their patron saint. Number 2. The Golem of Prague. The Golem of Prague is a legendary creature from Jewish folklore that Rabbi Judah Loew ben Bezalel created in the 16th century. The golem was made of stone and could be animated using magic and prayers. It was known as Joseph and was mute, but could hear from great distances and become invisible. The golem was created to protect the Jewish community from anti-Semitic attacks, except on Saturdays, when it had to rest during the Sabbath. After a period of protection, the golem was deactivated and placed in the attic of Prague's synagogue, where it is said to remain and could be restored to life if needed. The story of the Golem of Prague has been passed down through generations and has become a significant part of Jewish and Czech folklore. Number 3. The Green Knight. The Green Knight, also known as Sir Bertelac de Hautesert, is a character from the medieval romance poem Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. In the story, the Green Knight proposes a game in which he allows Gawain to strike him with an axe, but in a year and a day, Gawain must seek out the Green Knight and endure a similar blow in return. Gawain accepts the challenge and beheads the Green Knight, but the knight's head continues to speak and reminds Gawain of the agreement. Before their subsequent encounter, Gawain undergoes secret tests of loyalty and purity. In the end, the Green Knight spares Gawain. The Green Knight's superpowers include transformation and surviving a beheading. Number 4. Siegfried. So let's talk about Siegfried. He's this fantastic character from an old German story called Nibelungenlied. He's like the medieval version of a superhero inspired by Norse mythology. Imagine this dude with superpowers. He's invincible and can turn invincible. How cool is that? So, Siegfried does all these crazy heroic things. He takes down a dragon like it's no big deal, and then does this bizarre bloodbath to make himself invincible. It's like he has this force field around him, except for this tiny spot on his back where a leaf got in the way. Classic, right? But here's the kicker. Even with all his powers, he's not entirely untouchable. His enemies figure out his weakness, and bam! One spear to the back while he's chilling by a stream on a hunting trip. Talk about a plot twist. And Siegfried's story isn't just some old tale. It's been remixed into operas, movies, and even video games. The dude's a legend in every sense of the word. Number 5. Roland. Among the 12 mythical paladins, knights, who served King Charlemagne of the Franks, Roland stood head and shoulders above the rest. Even though he was an actual historical figure, the Middle Ages saw the proliferation of fantastical stories about Charlemagne and his knights. According to the legend, Roland was 8 feet tall and wielded the enchanted Durindana, also spelled Durendal, a sword that had belonged to Hector and the hero of Troy. Folklore from the Middle Ages states that Charlemagne's sister bore Roland, or Orlando. Despite his humble origins as an Italian peasant, he was invited to the royal court upon discovering his identity. Roland was a formidable fighter, but died because he was too preoccupied with becoming famous. The time in Europe known as the Middle Ages began around 500 AD and lasted until roughly 1500 AD. It is a lengthy epic poem penned in a majestic tone, describing renowned or historical figures. The legendary epic, The Song of Roland, recounts the events leading up to Roland's decease. The poem is about the Muslim conquest of Spain in 778. To mediate between the Muslim leader and Charlemagne, the paladin Ganelon was dispatched. Instead, Ganelon disclosed Roland's army's intended course to the enemy and plotted with them out of jealousy. At Roncesvalles, in the Pyrenees Mountains, the Muslims lay in wait for Roland before ambushing him. Roland ignored the paladin's advice and waited until the battle was nearly over before blowing his ivory horn to summon reinforcements from Charlemagne. That was when it became too late. Many of the most courageous paladins, including Roland, had already died when Charlemagne's armies arrived. Ultimately, Charlemagne and Ganelon were assassinated due to his betrayal. Number 6. William Tell. The legend of the Swiss hero William Tell is a well-known story that dates back to the 15th century. The legend tells of events that supposedly occurred over 100 years earlier, during the Habsburg rule in Switzerland. According to the legend, the evil Habsburg official, Albrecht Gessler, forced William Tell, a skilled marksman, to demonstrate his legendary accuracy by shooting an apple off his son's head. Despite the immense pressure and risk, Tell succeeded in this seemingly impossible task using his extreme accuracy with a crossbow. However, Gessler, angered by Tell's defiance, ordered him imprisoned. As Tell was being transported by boat, a sudden storm arose. The crew, fearing for their lives, begged Tell to help steer the ship back to shore. Demonstrating his incredible strength, he could take control of the boat and guide it safely back to land. Once on shore, Tell leaped from the boat and ran across the country, eventually finding Gessler. Using his crossbow, Tell shot and killed the Habsburg official with a single, precise bolt. This act is credited with sparking the rebellion that ultimately led to the creation of the Swiss Confederacy. The legend of William Tell highlights his remarkable abilities as a marksman and his physical strength, which he used to defy the oppressive Habsburg rule and pave the way for Swiss independence. The story has become an enduring symbol of Swiss national pride and the power of individual courage in the face of tyranny. Number 7. Saint Francis of Assisi. One of the most influential people in the late Middle Ages was born in Assisi, Umbria, in 1181. His name was Saint Francis of Assisi. He was a friar who decided to live a good life by helping the poor and spreading the Christian message worldwide. This helped them beat the devil. People saw Saint Francis as such a great example of Christian goodness that they thought he could do miracles for Jesus. For the history of psychiatry, the parts that talk about demons and exorcisms are the most important. Since the time of the Gospels, people have thought that devils invading the body caused mental disorders in demoniacs. Jesus used exorcism to get rid of people who were suffering from these kind of problems. As Christianity spread, people thought that demons caused most mental illnesses and that exorcism was the only way to get rid of them. The practice of exorcism has been around for a long time. It was still going strong during the time of Saint Francis of Assisi. A woman from Narni was exorcised around 1228. In his hagiography of the saint, Thomas of Celano writes that the woman was moved by a brutal fury and deprived of all judgment, did horrible things, and spoke sheer folly. The woman seems to have symptoms of both acute manic episodes and schizophrenia, but it is not possible to give a correct diagnosis at this point. It was written by Saint Bonaventure in 1263 and is called the Legenda Mayor. In it, he talks about a demon possessed Franciscan brother who was of times quite dashed down in the ground and swallowed foaming, with his limbs now drawn up, now stretched forth, now folded, now twister, now becoming rigid and fixed. This is a much more detailed account of the demon. These are clear signs of grand mal seizures, which are common in people with epilepsy, which is another disease that is often linked to evil possession. Number 8. King in the Mountain. The King in the Mountain legend is a recurring trope in medieval and early modern European folklore, where a great leader is believed to be in a state of suspended animation, awaiting the right moment to return and lead their people once more. One of the most well-known examples is the legend surrounding King Arthur. After his final battle, Arthur is said to have been carried off to the mystical land of Avalon, where he sleeps and waits to return when his country needs him most. Another famous example is the legend of Charlemagne, the Frankish king who ruled a vast empire in the 8th and 9th centuries. According to the legend, Charlemagne did not die, but sat enthroned in a cave, patiently awaiting the day he would emerge to restore his empire to its former glory. After Constantinople fell to the Ottoman Turks in 1453, it is said that Constantine was turned into marble and buried underground. Legend holds that he will one day return to reclaim his empire, demonstrating the extraordinary longevity associated with these king in the mountain figures. The common thread in these legends is the idea of a great leader possessing the superpower of extreme longevity, allowing them to outlive their mortal existence and remain in a state of suspended animation until they are needed again. This speaks to the enduring human desire for robust and heroic leadership in times of crisis or upheaval, and the belief that such figures can transcend the usual constraints of mortality. So, the next time you gaze up at the night sky or wander through the ancient ruins of a forgotten kingdom, remember that the most outstanding leaders may not be gone forever. They could be out there, hidden in the shadows, biding their time, ready to rise and reclaim their rightful place when the world needs their heroic strength the most. The legends live on, and the sleeping kings may have their day. Remember to comment your thoughts about this, like it, and click the subscribe button for more Middle Age history videos like this.